Hello, my name is Armand Baltazar, and I'm the artist and author behind Timeless. Today I'm going to take you through the studio. When you enter my studio, the first thing you'll see is a bookshelf full of books, and this contains all of the sort of inspiration and information and all the things that I use in both creating artwork and sort of inspiring making the books. Over here to the left, you'll see a growing collection of Timeless books as they are now being published across the world. I'm eagerly looking forward to putting the book from Italy on this shelf. So let's go inside to the studio. This is the studio for Timeless, and in it is both a working studio for producing art. It's also a studio for prepping art. So I'll explain that in a moment. But first, let's walk in a little further. You'll see a collection of toys and other further inspiration. My family and I, we collect robots. And this is one of the first things that you'll see when you come into the studio. Maybe even an occasional alien and a few other really, really fun things. This is the work table. The work table is where we prep artwork for prints. So people who want to collect artwork from the books and buy a print, this is where it all happens. These prints are sort of prepared here on this table and then sent out. And then behind the table is where we actually make the prints. This is our printing station. I have a computer completely dedicated to color correcting the artwork and printing everything out on this beautiful Epson printer. And this is where we sort of make that happen. Now, this table also does a bunch of other things. One of the things it is underneath it is where we store the artwork, the collectible artwork for Timeless. And everything is sort of archived here. And that's where that is held. On top, you'll see cutting boards, and you'll even see some of the maquettes and statues of the characters of Timeless and a few of the props and vehicles that were made to aid in creating the art of the book. But more on that in just a moment. Let's take a look further into the studio. Now, I'm not the only artist in the studio. The other artist is the world-famous Diego from the book itself. And not only is he an artist and a musician, but he helps with the creation and repair of some of the models in Timeless. Right now, Diego is working on helping to repair the Kingfisher airplane, which is painted in the book and has suffered a little battle damage. So we're going to have that repaired at his desk. Now, across from Diego's desk is my desk. This is where I work digitally. I use a iMac computer. I use a Cintiq, and I like this system because the combination of this large iMac screen and this Wacom Cintiq allows me to paint digitally using a stylus and brushes, digital brushes, and I can paint. This is, at the moment, what I've got on my table is working through the designs for Lucy, who is the other main star in the book, and looking at all her different costume ideas. Let's see. The other thing that I am working on is, let's see here. Not that one. There we go. This is Rover, and Rover is a new robot that's in Timeless 2. And he was drawn traditionally, but right here he's sort of his colors are sort of being worked out in sketch form for me to figure out how he's going to be painted. And then the final painting of Rover will be in oil paint. Let's come on over here next to my computer station, and you will see where I work traditionally. This is my desk. This is where I draw. This is where I'll marker sketch or I'll pen sketch. All that happens here. Now, there's an elaborate rig over the desk that is set up with a camera, set up with a field monitor, so that I can film what I'm doing and document the artwork that I'm making for Timeless. Now, unfortunately, I didn't do this enough for book 1, but it's my intention to do it for book 2 and all the rest of the Timeless books that are taking place. So this drawing desk has this elaborate rig which allows me to sort of do that. Below the desk is a hardware tool chest, and I use this chest not to keep the tools to fix machines and cars and things, but I use it to hold the tools that I use in making the artwork. Markers, rulers, templates, ellipse guides. These are pencils, and down below here are airbrushes. When I'm doing large format airbrushing, I use airbrushes I keep down below. Now, this here, as a matter of fact, is a large format airbrusher, the kind that we would use in 2D animation. So in painting films like Prince of Egypt, or The Road to El Dorado, or Sinbad, or Spirits Down the Cimarron for DreamWorks, we would work on boards with acrylic paint, and we would use the airbrush to spray a thin mist of water across it so we can create blends of color in paint. And that was one of the things we did on 2D animation, and one of the things I like to do when I'm painting in acrylic, when I do paint in acrylic. So there are paintings that were done for Timeless in acrylic, and a lot of times if they were not done on this desk, they were done at this station. What you see currently on my easel is going to be an actual oil painting of Diego. So that's the way Diego looks in book 2, and I am getting ready to create an oil painting of him. Now previously I was creating these sort of gouache and watercolor paintings of robots for Timeless 2. That is a rabbit robot. This is an early version of an older Rover robot here. And when I painted those, I painted them using traditional water media. This is acrylic gouache. It's a gouache paint that sort of sets up like acrylic when it's done. And I painted that using this paint arranged on in a very traditional way for gouache painting. That is my palette for painting in gouache. Now below that is my palette for working in oil paint. So let's put this out of the way for a moment. I will show you that. When I'm oil painting, I work on a more permanent palette. This is a palette box that I crafted myself way back when I was in school. Now there's no paint in it at the moment, but this is basically a sealable wooden box that has a sheet of glass for the palette itself, mounted against white. And I'll put the paint out on here, and I will use this palette to sort of work on this painting here. There are a set of lamps over both my palette and my easel that are color corrected for daylight, so I can keep the color consistent with looking just right and the way I want it to look. Lastly, what I'll show you is my other supply area. This is where I keep my brushes, charcoal powders, pencils, pens. This is where I keep acrylic paint at the top. Each one of these drawers holds a different thing. This is where I hold charcoal and pastel and sort of dry medium. Down here is where I keep oil paint. This is my warm colors and earth tones. And below that is where I keep the cooler colors. So in brief, that is a bit of how the artwork is made in the studio. Lastly, I'll show you this. Now, when I'm making the art for Timeless, I'm also writing and thinking up the stories for Timeless. And so I keep several boards near my desk where I can place the ideas and the beats for writing, for things that the characters will do, or chapters, or emotional moments, or moments of action that happen in the story. And so a lot of creating Timeless is both doing the artwork and the writing simultaneously. Kind of go back and forth between writing and making the art. So I hope that you've enjoyed this tour of the Timeless Studio, and thanks for stopping by.